Hi guys, here we are, Vanessa and friends. I hope everybody had a great weekend last weekend for Easter, Passover, and whatever you were doing. I hope it was glorious and you got to be around some family and friends and felt safe and loved and happy and full of God. So where we left off the prior week was all about resistance. And if you hadn't had a chance to watch that video, I highly recommend you go back and listen to it after this. But you're here now, and there's only now in the present, and that's what we're dealing with, right? So let's go with that. So let's think. So a little bit about a resistance, right? It comes up generally when there's change accruing, happening, and occurring, and all those things. Resistance, it's funny, if you Google resistance, you'll come up actually with a lot of work things, like industrial psych type stuff. It's very, very related and focused on that. It's very strange. I didn't expect that. So I actually had to be very specific in the way that I Googled resistance. I think I came up with like resistance and spiritual growth, and I had to like make sure I put spiritual in there somewhere because it kept coming up with IO psych stuff, which is, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just doesn't always go to the next step of it. But you can also find a post that I followed up with after that 2 weeks ago with some homework and a reading on resistance. So I think I ended up on a pastoral site instead, which was a little bit more God based. Made me feel more comfortable. So with that being said, where in your life do you think or feel like you're experiencing possibly some resistance? Anybody on my community over here? Can you think of something quick that you're having some subconscious pushback, so to speak, on some changes in your life? If you want to share, let me know. So I had shared, you guys think, and I'll share first, okay? Usually it's the other way around. I let everybody else share and then I share, but I'll give you that reprieve. So I had shared that because I have so many changes going on and I had lost 2 people in 1 week, that I was experiencing anger, and I didn't even know that I was experiencing anger. It was very strange until my poor husband just yelled at me. He was like, "What is wrong with you?" It's like, I guess something is wrong. So, and my initial response to that was to get really angry. Like, how dare you say something's wrong with me? So I'm working with a coach, and she, I love the way she just very tactfully says stuff. And she's like, I just want you to journal about anger, about your anger. So I, of course, took it to the next step because that's what I do. And instead of just journaling about my anger, I actually wrote it in a book format. So it's like a small chapter on anger, on this anger that came up. And for me, someone who likes to write like that, it was more successful than just journaling. It made me do more personification, which helps me a lot with my displaying what an emotion might feel like for me. So I thought that was really interesting. So I'm going to add that exercise in for you guys as well. But first, we're going to go into when resistance comes up. We already know from the week before what it could look like. But now I want to go into, why does that come up? Why does that happen? If you're all ready for change, right? And you're prepped and primed and you're like, all right, I'm ready to start new. I'm going to do this. This is all great. And even if it's something small, it doesn't have to be huge, right? You're ready to do it. You even say it's like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to work out. I'm going to work out 4 days a week. No matter what, I'm going to do this. And then for the first 3 weeks, you're like, fantastic. You are the best person. And then suddenly something happens, or doesn't really happen. You get an injury, or it's harder to get there, or your time is taken up, or whatever it is. Something inevitably comes up, right? So, hello, this is called resistance. So the interesting thing is that we tend to label it as something that's happened to us, right? It's always like, and now I can't, this is in the way. And I do this as well. I have to stop myself pretty frequently and be like, yeah, that did happen. You're right, Vanessa, that happened. And now what? Now what are you going to do about it, right? Because if my real goal is to do this one thing that I'm focusing on, and I'm easily, I shouldn't maybe judge it, I'm being swayed pretty quickly. So not say easily. I'm being swayed to not do it so quickly. I have to kind of stop and question my security in this decision, right? How important is it for me to acquire or to attain this type of goal? And sometimes the answer is maybe it's not really that important for this change to occur. And other times, you know, inevitably this change is going to happen. No matter what, it's going to happen. And the way you can handle it, or the way it happens, is your choice in the graceful process, so to speak. But if you're not allowing that, what happens when we don't allow? Anybody want to answer that one? What happens if you don't allow? You're fighting against it. Doesn't have to be right or wrong. What?
You'll get sick.
Yeah, you'll get sick. You'll feel sick. Something else will happen. This is just what happens. It's actually more resistance, right? So the less, the more you fight on something, the more yuck you feel. It's the best way I could say it. I said it to a client today. She's having an insane amount of inflammation. Suddenly her hand is like not usable at all. And just a sidebar, but kind of like sadly funny, she goes to the ER and the doctor's like, a hand surgeon comes in and goes, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you moving these fingers? It's only your thumb that's bothering you. And she like literally can't close her hand because it hurts so much. And that was like her thing with the doctor. Is so crazy. But anyway, yeah, Brandon's saying you spiral when something happens like that. So this one client from today, we were talking about how she's been going through so many changes in the past few years. And I said, do you think that, this could possibly be related? You lost your mother, you had all these other things about moving, all this stuff that was happening over this worry, this concern that was building for a few years. And now a lot of that has changed and it's settled. And now she has to unwrap and unspiral. And suddenly the body goes, ah! Even though this change is going to be good overall, right? Her body is just starting to have all these things that weren't really, they were there, but not like this. Not like this. So yeah, you can get sick, but you can also, whatever you're thinking and holding on to in your mind, you hold in your body. And I'll say that 5 million ways, 5 million different times. Whatever you're thinking and holding on to in your mind, you hold on to in your body. So if you let that set in for a moment, you'll understand, right? Very simply that if you're carrying this proverbial weight up here, what happens to the rest of you? Ultimately, how many times can you roll that stone up the hill and be like Sisyphus, it's just up and up and up, and you're never really getting there, and you're never really getting to that top, or that feeling of really getting that success that you're trying to get to. So this resistance to change, it's just immeasurably important to focus on. How did I get here? Why did I get here? Now, why do I want this next thing? And when resistance comes up, can I see it? Can I actually see it? So I'm going to come back to my Zoom people. Can you give me a little instance? It doesn't have to be something important in your life where you recognize you're being resistant. Gagliardio, come on, help me out here. He's like, I'm resistant to talking to you.
Everything I ever do, I hesitate.
I
procrastinate on everything in my entire life. It's my biggest problem.
I
don't know why I do it.
Really? Wonderful. I'm so glad that we're talking about this then. Gags, when I think it was for my 16th birthday, or maybe my 15th, I don't know. You wrote something in a card for me, and you gave me these beautiful flowers, I remember, because I was like, a young girl, and like this was so over the top sweet the way he did this. And I actually, I loved it so much. He wrote, beauty lies in simplicity. And he wrote that when we were teenagers, and I put that on my first business card. Did I ever tell you that? Maybe it was my second, but it was like one of my first 2 business cards. I actually have it still, and I look at that and I'm like, I got that from Gags. Beauty lies in simplicity. So take that one in for a second, because isn't that the truth? Anything that you've created, including your life, your best moments in your life, are generally really, really simple. So, and we'll go back to that a few times because I think it's really important. Now, resistance, here it comes. It's like this ball just waiting to like pounce or be bounced or something, and it's just going to go off everything, right? So what can contribute to this type of resistance? Because most of it, it's actually really subconscious. Like, you don't purposely go out and like, I'm going to create issues in my life and I'm going to have a flat tire and I'm going to have this. It's not what you're really wanting, right? So I'm going to give you some examples. I'm just going to read them off. Introducing change too quickly. So I felt overwhelmed and my brain said, no. This is the big one because people think that they don't get overwhelmed easily. I'm going to tell you right now, most of us do. We get overwhelmed way more easily than you think. We get overwhelmed sometimes if we walk into a room and there's too many sounds going on, or there's too many people, and everybody thinks, oh, it's because I don't like being around too many people. No, you're overwhelmed. What's happening to you is that your brain is going, oh my God, there's so much input. I don't know what to do. So you think you have a social anxiety, and really you're just overwhelmed. Does that make sense? Anybody think about that one? Ring true to that one? Okay. Brendan saying, for me, it's work. I know it's toxic. It brings me so much angst, but I'm still too scared to make a change because what if it's worse? What if I mess up? I'm overwhelmed even thinking about it. Okay. Thanks for sharing. We'll talk about that too. So the brain just wants to shut down. Not because it feels happy to shut down, just because it doesn't know what the hell to do. So it goes, Another reason for resistance, not fully committing to the change, doing it to please others maybe instead of for yourself. Okay, not committed to the change. The more and more that I do spiritual coaching and guidance and stuff like that, the more and more I'm like, man, I need to have more preparedness questions, because if I introduce a change with this person and they're not ready for it and they're doing it to please me, it doesn't work out, right? I know some of you know what I'm talking about. So we have to know that you're really ready for that change. Readiness is a big, big deal for success. Underestimating how hard change was and overestimating my ability to handle it. Now, this just goes back to being overwhelmed. So we're going to continue. Not realizing how sticky the habit was that I wanted to change. So if it's a habit you're trying to change, this goes not only into the preparedness, but also your visualization of the actual version of it. So you need to know exactly what you're working for. The cascade effect, i.e. the unanticipated impact change had on other parts of my life. So a quick example of that could be something like simple as quitting smoking, right? Because it has such a mental thing to it as well, right? And it connects to the actual breaks you're taking throughout your day. And it connects to all the social instances that go around with smoking. So you don't even realize maybe how infiltrated it is into your entire day. And then that kind of shocks you. Feeling emotionally connected to my old behavior and not understanding why that connection was so strong. Now this one is actually the key to almost every change you'll make in your life. Every change that you're actually trying to make too, right? Especially if it's behavioral. If you don't understand why you do something or where it came from, you might not get that real want to leave it. Or if you think you're getting there, you might revert back because that cord is so strong. So this is the same thing with karmic ties to people. You can have a cord tie to an action or to behavior, especially because it could come from other lives. There could be some sort of karmic tie that you're satisfying by doing this behavior. Self-sabotage is a huge one because a lot of times it's a form of punishment. Not saying that you deserve it or that it's right, but it hangs out there because it's so old and it's so hard to unravel without help. Lack of support mechanisms and feeling like I should be able to change without help. Whoever said that you have to do these things on your own? I mean, whoever came up with this obviously was crazy. Have you ever felt like, oh, this is so important that I do this by myself? No, what you usually feel is like, well, I can do it by myself, or I should be able to do it by myself. Why does it matter? Why does that matter so much? You know, ask yourself, what would it look like if I had actual support for this? Wouldn't that be kind of a lot easier maybe? It might be better. Or are you just so worried about not having that? I did it by myself. I climbed to Mount Everest all alone. That's ego talking. Ego has nothing to do with the divine, and it's not going to serve you. By the way, as I'm sitting here and I'm watching the video, I can see little orbed lights coming up behind me. It's really funny. It's on Facebook. It's really funny. Fear of the unknown and fear of repeating a negative experience, which increased feelings of stress and overwhelm. See, it all goes back to this overwhelm thing. Fear of the unknown and repeating a negative experience. Okay. The what-ifs in life will never serve you. The what-ifs are great for anticipating problems, right? You can anticipate things because you have these what-ifs going on or this fear happening. But they need to be specifically used as tools, because if they're not, then they start to hang out in your body. And what I just say, whatever occupies and lives in that mind, you carry in your body as well, right? So we don't want to keep it with us. We're going to use the fear or anger or any so-called negative feeling and utilize it as something to propel us forward. So we can anticipate possible issues when we can anticipate what could happen, but then we're going to take that away because we don't want to hang out with it. All right. So if you recognize any of those levels of resistance, I bet you do, we're going to now quickly go into core negative beliefs. When people learn that they can create their own reality and that by focusing their minds on positive images and thoughts, they can create a more positive reality, they sometimes become afraid of their negative thoughts. You ever think of like manifesting and then immediately start to blame yourself for like everything else in your life? Like, oh my God, I manifested this. I created this. And then you're like scared to think of anything else, right? Manifestation doesn't really work like that. It does work by like what you solely perpetuate though. So if you're constantly feeling like a victim or something like that, then yes, you can call more victimization to yourself. But take a breath. We're not going to go topple on all of this. Let's just continue for a moment. Often people try to suppress or ignore their negative thoughts and valiantly try to focus only on the positive. This is a mistake. Our negative thoughts are valuable messages to us about our deeper fears and negative attitudes. Didn't we just say this? Negative thoughts that you are consciously aware of do not cause real problems. Once you are conscious of them, they are already on their way to being cleared out. It's the negative beliefs that we hold at deeper levels without conscious awareness that cause negative experiences in our lives and prevent us from creating what we consciously want. These are the real troublemakers. They are our core negative beliefs, the deepest and most fundamental assumptions and expectations we have about life, the world, ourselves, and others. These core negative beliefs are usually so basic to our thinking and feeling that we don't even realize they are beliefs at all. We assume that they are simply the true nature of reality. That's just the way life is. As long as we have these unrecognized deep-seated beliefs, they continue to govern the way we create our reality. So for example, you may be consciously affirming and visualizing prosperity, but if your unconscious belief is that you don't deserve it, or that it's immoral or unspiritual, then you won't create it. So your negative thoughts and worries can be used positively if you're willing to become conscious of them and look deeper to see what underlies them. Once you become aware of your core negative beliefs, you can change them. Okay, I'm going to skip a little bit. So I'm just going to read a couple of them, and then I'll see what I want to post later. Here's a good example of one. Recently, I just had a friend who was trying to help with a lot of stuff, and she's stuck right now. She feels very, very stuck right now. She had a really tough week, and she's feeling really angry, upset, and here's the big one. I am powerless. I don't have the power to create my life. I'm a victim of outside circumstances. I'm helpless. Other people do things to me. I'm not responsible for what happens to me. So I don't think anybody's saying I'm not responsible for what happens, or they don't take responsibility. What I do think is that we can generally fall into this very, very quickly, feeling like a victim and not recognizing that that's how we're feeling, and then staying in that. So like I said, judgment, it has a use. There's a use for it. It's when you don't activate it, or you don't activate those negative emotions and use them to go forward, that they can become, leaving you feeling powerless. Scarcity. There's not enough to go around of whatever I want. Therefore, I have to do without. Or grab more of my share because others will come, so you have to get more and more. So here are some things that we may feel are scarce. Like, this is a big one. Money, right? Love, time, energy, space, good health, youth, vitality, jobs, pleasure, sex, and so on. So each one of these have a clearing affirmation. I'll just give you an example. The universe is the source of, let's say, love. And there is more than enough for all my needs. There is an abundance of love in my life. I always have everything I need. So weeks ago, we had spoken about being grateful in your prayers, saying actively, thank you, God, for my ability to, whatever you wanted, needed for that day. Thank you, God, my ability to navigate this meeting that I'm nervous about. Thank you, God, for your support in my finances. And actively giving a thankful prayer, meaning that you're already living that, and that's what you're saying thanks for. And the divine listens to this and gives that. Number 3, life is a struggle. Things are hard. Life is difficult. It's not okay for my life to be easy, enjoyable, pleasurable, fun. If things are not going well, or things are going well, watch out. Something bad is sure to happen. If I suffer enough in this life, I'll get my reward, hopefully in the next. That's a big one, right? So I don't think it's that people think you're not allowed to have fun. I do think, though, that especially now, people are really diving into that. Well, things are just hard. Life is super hard. Things are really difficult. And eventually there's a guilt that accrues with that does start to feel like a guilt. I know as a mom, I get this very easily, that if I go out for too long, if it's too many hours or whatever it is, there's a story that replays over in my mind. Brené's laughing at me, that I'm like, I gotta get back home. I get super uncomfortable. I'm like, things aren't right. Especially when they were super little, but still now there's definitely this hesitation. Brené is just laughing. There's this hesitation to go really and just be in that moment and stay in the fun. Okay. We're going to go over a couple more. I am an unworthy person. This one's tough because, again, there are definitely moments where I think everyone says something like that, I'm just not going to have that. It's not going to happen in my life. And maybe they're not saying I'm unworthy, but they're saying it in so many other ways. They're saying, I'm ugly. I'm, just lacking in some major source, in some major way. You'll hear this actually a lot, very vocally, in little kids. And I don't think people really listen to it or realize how deep this is going. If you hear a child say I'm not good at this, I'm ugly, I'm this, I'm that, it's a really big red flag. And the big thing also is that if they manage to get into their adulthood, right? Because some kids nowadays, that is such a big threat in their lives. between the devices and social media and all that other stuff, that they might not make it to adulthood because they're really not just feeling it from themselves, but they might be getting bullied in other ways as well. So if they make it to adulthood, if this has not been completely excavated, it comes back with a vengeance at any moment that there's space for it. So this I'm an unworthy person translated into however it is, like, that's not going to happen for me. It's just not in the cards. Like, that is actually the same thing over and over and over again. Zoom community, you feel me? Like, when do you pause and you hear this horrible voice go, it's not going to happen for me, meaning I'm not worthy of it. I'm not going to get that. So this replay that maybe came from a long, long time ago, whenever there's that moment or that chance to really be like, you know what, F that, I am so worthy of this, we generally don't take that moment. We generally go the opposite way and really go back into this very sickly place that is so, so sad, If I ever got to meet the 11th grade version of myself, my God, I would just like tear up her horrible, sad poems and be like, girl, you're okay. Some of these people, they're just not there yet, and you are, and it's okay. But that's terrible, you carry it with you. So if you're having these little red flags that I'm talking about right now happen, I'm sure they happened when you were younger, and now they're still there. It is time to address them and to not pretend that they're not there. I know I'm going into the meditation time, but this is so important, guys. So I'm an unworthy person. You're not saying it in those words possibly, but you're saying it a million times over in other ways. So identify it in yourself so you can see it in others as well. And this also goes with, not the I'm getting too old, but like the ageism stuff, it perpetuates more and more nowadays. So if you catch yourself saying these things about age, stop yourself and be like, that's not the truth. Like, let it go. Okay. It's a big thing. Next one, so we can move on. I fear failure, success, or power. I'm afraid to take a risk for fear I'll fail or succeed. If I fail, others will reject me, and if I succeed, others will envy me or want something from me. I'll be isolated. I won't be able to uphold my image. I'll be too powerful. I'm afraid of my own power. Are you saying that? Probably not, that you're afraid of your power. However, are you saying the other things? Most likely, yes. People that are afraid of taking chances, especially in career or maybe even in love, why is this a thing? But it is. Like, God forbid I get rejected, is we understand that more, but it's also, oh my God, God forbid I actually get what I want. Then what? What will happen? Well, somebody's going to have something to say. Somebody's not going to like me because of that. And that could be true. So what does that mean? You're just not going to do it? Well, you didn't want it bad enough, right? So if you're just going to stop right there, that's it. You're living your life against somebody else's rules. So pause and think. Maybe I'm being scared of failure or success. I don't trust myself, and I don't trust the universe. I hear all the time from people that, well, I'm not psychic like you. Well, I don't have any gifts like you. I don't have that. I don't have that talent. No. I don't feel any things like that. It's like, again, another reel of, well, I can't compare to you, so I must suck. Right? And that's strange to me, because part of how people come to me is they get a warm referral. It's not somebody off the street. I don't take somebody off the street. So that means that somebody in your life thinks you're worthy of having a great change, of having healing come to you. So you didn't come to me for no reason. You came because you were ready to heal and to do that movement. And you trusted somebody to see that for you. You trusted somebody, and now you're trusting me. So that means that somewhere inside already you have this little spark of knowing, like, well, I'm worthy of healing, right? And I trust that I can be taken care of. Now, if you take that deeper and you start to figure out, like, yeah, I've heard that little voice before. Oh yeah, I knew when that person was going to get hurt. I knew something about that. That's a trust in the divine part of you. And the divine part of you is where all that intuition, the thing that we call psychic, all that stuff, that's where it resides. It's in that divine part, which PS is also external from you as well, and it's still part of you. Okay, so we went through some core belief processes, right? And the opposite of everything that I went over is how you clear it. Really renaming it, addressing it, understanding that it's there. That even if you don't understand why it's there, it's still there. And it needs to be addressed and processed. So we'll go over this stuff more and more in the future. Because we're not done with it. Because that's why I'm here every week, is to create that continuation of healing. It doesn't stop, right? And the growth doesn't stop. Because if it did, what would we be doing? We'd be miserable and sick all the time. So we don't want to do that. We want to get rid of that, right? We're at a point where it's got to be, you're going to either die or you're going to evolve. So let's evolve. And with that being said, my friends, I want people on Zoom, I want to know, where do you want to go for your meditation? Somebody be vocal. Quickly. Come on, Jeannie.
What?
Somebody.
Lake?
What'd you say, a lake?
Last week. We did that last week, didn't we?
I don't know, but all I want to know is some opinions, and then I'll see what happens. Go ahead.
Someplace warm. On
Warm?
a beach.
Warm beach, lake. Okay, we have water. Continue.
I always pick water, so.
Okay, water,
Yeah.
water everywhere. And tonight there's a drop to drink. We're going to figure it out. Okay. People on Facebook, you always have input too, so quickly type something and I can introduce it to our meditation. We're going to do like, what is that? Choose your adventure book? Choose your adventure meditation. Let's do this. Okay. Just going to mute you guys. I really talked a lot tonight, but it's so important. These things are so important. We need to be in awareness. Oh, and by the way, and I'll post this book too. This is the book that I was reading from. Am I blocking it? Okay. The Creative Visualization Workbook by Shakti Gawain, sorry. A garden. Oh, all right. Well, we got everything, so we're gonna figure it out. So as you dim the lights, get super comfy. And we know that the breath is what carries us into these beautiful places, right? So the first sound that you hear is your breath. So if you're familiar with Ujjayi breath or ocean sounding breath, see if you can start with that. So if you're familiar with that beautiful breath and that sound of the ocean, if you were in a classroom, you would hear the Ujjayi sounding breath literally sounding like you're by the ocean, because everybody's breath builds like that. And if you've ever experienced that in a yoga class or a meditation class, it's just really, really amazing to hear how each person's breath, so soft and so steady, can create this magnificent sound that we find in nature. So coming back to these core beliefs, you know, it can be scary for some people to realize how much of their reality they can create, right? But we're co-creators with God. And even during a meditation, you know, I'm co-creating. some of it comes from what we want. So I'll usually bring you to a place that I'm like, oh, this looks good. And then whatever I say after that is really a co-creation with the divine. You know, I feel like I channel into what other people need at that moment, and or when they're listening to again, that it's going to serve them. Even the words that I begin to speak they're not scripted. So we're co-creators. So if we think about that in our lives, part of that can be scary, right? But remember, what I was just reading is that, you know, manifestation doesn't happen from just thinking about it. It happens from purposeful creation. And then the scary things that you don't want to happen, they don't happen when you're aware of it. So bringing awareness to your body and then to your mind and all that, it only brings good things. So we're going to do all of the above. We're actually going to start coming from my favorite, a little thatched cottage. And the cottage, it's nice and small, you know. It has dried herbs in the window. This is actually from one of my past lives, by the way. And there's flowers hanging upside down, all drying, and you can smell sage and rosemary and everything just drying in the windows. And right outside here, you'll see a little babbling brook. So you'll take your step out into this very lush area right by this little brook. And I want you to notice the temperature. So it's perfect. It's like a nice warm spring day. And with you, you have your little satchel. I like to have a satchel sometimes in meditations where we travel, because I'll give you some things to use. And the first thing you're going to take out is just a light cloak. Yeah, we're going back in time. So take notice of the color of the cloak, of the texture of it. I told you that the temperature is perfectly warm, a nice warm spring day. So notice how yours looks and feels, for that matter. So in your satchel, you're also going to find 5 really smooth stones. And you're going to walk down parallel to this babbling brook. And the water's going to get smaller and more narrow until you're led into a really green, lush, but wild garden. This garden is anything but kept. It's overgrown with everything you can imagine, but even the weeds are beautiful, okay? And since you don't have to tend to it today, you're just going to fully enjoy it, noticing all of the colors. So as the water dwindles down, you just walk along. And in your hands, I want you to hold the smooth stones. So I want you to walk along and see if you can find your favorite flowers there. See if you need to walk through things, if you're just traipsing all about, or if you're carefully walking between things. Notice how you're operating in this wild garden. And maybe there's some overgrown moss on some old statues, where you can really enjoy what that sun looks like, just slightly reflecting off of their bodies. You know, meditations, while they're quiet and their purpose is to slow down and create awareness, they can be a lot of fun and they can be exciting too. So notice how your body reacts every time you find something that you think is cool or beautiful or whatever. And just be aware of what that feels like in your body. Great. And in this place, do you see any trees? Are there any small trees? Is there a large tree? Is there anything? Or is it just kind of all wild and crazy like? So you're going to take your first stone, and you're going to notice that on the back of the stone, it says, "I am powerless." And on the ground, you're going to take some dirt and mix it with a couple of drops of dew. And you're going to put mud over the side of the stone. You're going to wipe out, "I am powerless." And as you wipe it out, I want you to say the words in your mind, "I am powerful. I am responsible for creating my life, and I'm ready for it." And you're going to leave this stone to dry in the sun. And you'll say it again, "I am powerful. I am responsible for creating my own life, and I am ready for it." So maybe you'll leave it by your favorite flower, or wherever you feel like you need to. And you're going to put it there, like a stake in the ground, stating, "This is what I want, and this is what I'm ready for." Great. Moving on. You're going to walk towards the outer edges of this wild garden. And on the outer edges, you're going to hear a lot of little animals, and they're all kind of twittering around, playing, looking for their spot in this land. And one of them grabs a little apple, like a smaller one, and starts gnawing on it, and they totally ignore you being there. So notice which animal it is. Look deeply into their eyes. This animal does not know where their next meal will come from. They don't know, they can't go grocery shopping, but they're eating this food and they're fully enjoying it. So you're going to take that second stone, and on the back of it says scarcity. You're going to sit it right by the animal who does not move, fully enjoying their food, looking you straight in the eyes. And you're going to say to both of you, "There's always more than enough to go around. I will always have everything I need." And the animal looks at you, gives like a little nod, and is off. Continuing. Now we're going to walk briefly through this very small little wooded area. There's only about 20 trees maybe, and they're not that big. They're just a nice, like, 7 feet taller than you. Not too big. And I say that for a reason, because the next thing you're going to do is you're going to climb one of those trees. So you could put your stuff down, everything but one stone, and you're going to climb up one of those trees with ease. But the first part that you put your foot on, the little small branch, you put your foot on breaks. And there's a moment of hesitation. So you have the choice, do I continue on, or do I stop because I'm scared? But you're going to choose to continue on, and you're going to climb because you're really excited about it. And when you get to the top of this tree, you get a bird's eye view of everything around you, everything you've seen already, and maybe a little bit of what you're going to see. And you'll look at your stone, and the stone says, life is a struggle. And you're going to turn it into this. As I follow my inner guidance, life is a flow. Life is full, and it's okay for me to relax and have fun. And you'll take this stone, and this one you're going to put right next to a nest that's in a branch nearby. And the bird's very close to it. Look down at it. Don't move again. Look back at you. And just wait. And as you take that moment in, breathe in what it feels like to be fully aware and fully affirming that your life is in flow. So instead of climbing down carefully, you're going to slide down halfway down this trunk. It's not that high. And then you're going to jump off because it's fun. And you trust that you can land. You're going to start to very slowly walk out of the woods, just looking back at that one tree that seemed to really be magical for you, feeling what it was like to be rooted in and yet be able to go higher into the sky, climbing as you climbed up that tree. And now you take your roots with you. So you're going to go walk out, and you didn't even realize, but nearby there is the sound of the ocean. So for a moment, going back into that ocean-sounding Ujjayi breath, just feeling how it gains momentum in the body. It's exciting to be alive. It's exciting and fun to be in flow. So you're definitely going to walk towards that beach. And as you go through some of the brush, you might get a couple scratches on your legs. And you can huff and puff about it, and then you're going to move on, reminding yourself that right through that brush is the ocean. And you'll make it through and be rewarded with very soft sand. And the sound of the waves crashing. And warm sea air blowing through your entire body. I'm going to take out your fourth stone. And this one says, I am an unworthy person. And you're going to feel the weight of this one in your palms. It feels almost double the weight as the other ones. It's really heavy. If this is a core belief that I am an unworthy person, what could I possibly be able to accomplish in my life? How could I possibly have any flow occur for me if I am unworthy of it? That's a heavy one. So you're going to take this rock and you're going to offer it to the water. And you understand that the water, as it does with everything else, will agitate it and make it smooth. So as you say to the water, I love myself. I accept myself. I deserve to be happy, healthy, wealthy. I deserve to be loved. And if there's anything else missing from that, you're going to say it as well. I deserve to be whatever. And the ocean accepts this offering and takes the challenge for itself. Allowing your stone to become smooth again. There is only one stone left. And I'm going to combine them. The core beliefs on this stone say, I fear failure, success, power. I don't trust myself. I don't trust the universe. And I'm combining it because they all go together. So, as I explain this one, I want you to find a beautiful space on the sand. In fact, first I want you to take your big toe and make a giant circle around yourself. Have fun making that circle and make sure it's just far enough away from the water that it doesn't get erased. So do that in your mind's eye and I'll explain why they go together. Everything in this world, as we talk about pretty much weekly, living in a safe and secure place in your body, in your mind, and in your house. Safe and secure in your relationships. So that's what rooted in really means. And if you don't trust yourself or you don't trust the universe, you will be scared of failure, success, or power. So this stone, pretty heavy as well, however, pretty simple. Because this core belief can be erased just as easily as it was created. Right now, you're going to offer this one up to God. You're going to hold it in your hand first. Put it towards the sun, this warm, beautiful sun. There's a reason that in yoga we have sun salutations. The sun is keeping us alive. So you offer this one to the sun, asking for it to lighten it. And the affirmations here: I validate myself. I trust my power. It's good to feel success. I trust myself. I trust the higher power inside of me. Because remember, divine resides inside all of us. So this stone, this offering to the heavens, really, gets lightened. And as you offer it up, you'll close your eyes, even in your mind. And you can immediately feel the connection between all of the stones. It will be like feeling electrical wires just go off, almost like a series of fireworks exploding at once. Feel them connect. And as soon as your feet get really rooted into where you are, yes, you're in sand, but that's earth. See that energy from each one of them grow instantaneously, and see what happens as you literally transform, explode, extinguish all of those negative core beliefs. They are not serving you by any means, and you change them and transmute them into light and love and ease. Feel that happen. Feel those fireworks go off inside of you. And take a moment to really sit in that power, knowing that you are actively participating in the creation of your world. You are actively participating in the positive creation of our world. There is no room for limiting core beliefs. You have to know that the work you do for yourself is for all of us. So feel that beautiful electrical energy happen. Allow those sparks to fly and get excited about life again. So once we activate this recognition of how these core beliefs can be, in fact, limiting, of how when they pop up and how we had no idea that there was resistance going on. 99% of this resistance, once acknowledged, is part of the process of letting go of it. So just stay there for a moment in your body, understanding what you've been doing. Notice every part of your being. So from top to bottom, we like to do this scan, this body scan, just seeing where you're holding on to things. And maybe for the last minute, you'll find those places that are still holding, and they've been holding these beliefs, this resistance. And now that you can label them, you can say, I see you, I totally acknowledge you, and really step into that power. So I'm just going to speak, and you can slowly awaken the body if you choose to, and if not, you'll just listen. First of all, I'm so proud of you and so grateful to all of you for showing up. I'm so excited that even if you grasp only parts of what I'm saying, that there will be change for you. I'm so happy for you as you see that it's okay to recognize when you're feeling victimized. But in the next breath, what do I always say? In the next breath, it's time to step out of that. And what are you going to do? Who are you going to ask for support? Where are you going to find reflection and then use it? Your emotions are all good. It's just knowing how to use them. And who are you choosing to be in your world? Who's your community? Be discerning and let the others find their own. But ultimately, folks, your change is my change, and mine is yours. And that's why when we see each other, or when we feel each other, or greet each other, or acknowledge each other, that's why Namaste means what it means. It means I see you doing the work, I see you being that light, and I'm going to do that too. And that's when we're together, and that's when we're one. So thank you so much for being here tonight, specifically because I felt like we did a lot. And as always, I'll post something to follow up, maybe a little reflective homework. But don't forget to watch the previous week because they do connect. And if you're hanging out, then I'll ask you to unmute yourself, or you can hang out on Facebook too. And if you're not, just keep following and send some people our way. Okay. All right, little guys over here, you can wake up.
I'm awake, but I think I'm going to be going to a not awake state in the other room, so
Go ahead.
I'm going to sign off. I'm taking a turn, so I need to go settle down.
Okay, love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Thank you.
What's up, my friends? Hi.
Hold on.
That's okay.
No.
How you doing, Mikey?
I'm good. I'm sorry I've been gone for a month.
Missed you.
I missed you too. I'm sorry. I was hermiting.
You were hermiting. You're welcome, Brandon. Have a
Yeah.
great night.
Hi, Brandon.
Carrie!
Now?
Carrie's here now. It counts.
What?
I said it counts.
Before,
Mhm.
last week with Kristen leaving and Carrie coming in.
Yeah. Bam, bam.
Trying to avoid her.
That's okay. All right, so I'll just sign off on my Facebook. So guys, as always, such a pleasure, and I'll see you next week. Love you. Namaste.